So I'm thinking about how we sculpt the earth. I think really big scale about where we should live on the earth, where humans should live and how they should live, how we affect the earth itself. And there's the small levels, like making swales and keeping water at higher levels and making lakes, slowing the flow of fresh water down to the ocean. So I'm kind of thinking about this idea of like macro terracing versus micro terracing and how we build cities. So I think about the land around me and how we sculpt it. What is our effect on it? Generally, we just start concreting over everything and we build as densely as possible, but at low levels. So what do I mean? I mean, like, we make small buildings and we just kind of cover areas and then we slowly retrofit that as urban areas increase. It might be wise for us to think about macro terracing and micro terracing. So here, dealing with a relatively small piece of land, how we can use bulldozers in some cases to flatten out areas that are already mostly flat, and then use those to make spaces for us to live, buildings, cluster type buildings where we go up, we build up, but not skyscrapers. You look at the pattern language and they talk about making a 3-story maximum and stuff like that. That seems to make a fair amount of sense to me. So we get some of the benefits of city living, but we don't have to pave everything around us. We can live in the forests and enhance the forests around us using the rain runoff from the buildings we build that we want to live in to enhance the areas where that water goes. Of course, we store some of it for human use, but anything we do with building something, it's very expensive to store the water, and we can collect a lot more water in most climates than we can use. This is all climate based, and you have to look at how much rainfall falls and when it falls on buildings. So having that runoff go to places where we then sink it into the ground rather than make roads where it just flows downward. We're trying to keep water up as high as we can, and we're trying to get it then stored mostly in the ground. And that water stored in the ground is going to have drier places, have more life, and we can enhance forests instead of be destroying them around us. Micro-terracing we would do with shovels and picks in places we don't even want a bulldozer to affect. So, I'm not being too eloquent, sorry. We have to be delicate with the world. The world and all the biological systems in it, of course, are really powerful, and we can just build however we want and kill off everything, and then it will restore after we die off. But the idea is to develop ways of us using land that enhances the land, that builds soil value, that helps the mycology, the mushroom life, and the wildlife around us. So we get to live in the wonderful, rich world that we evolved to live in, and still have people living near it. There's a lot of small decisions here to make, and there's rules we can make for ourselves, design rules we can make for ourselves on how to do that. I've been really slow in thinking about that, but I have to be. The ways we're doing things now, just paving everything and expanding and urban sprawl, aren't the way to go. And the ways I'm thinking about are in some sense more expensive, they're labor intensive, and so I'm thinking beyond just the Bosque, but to the land around it, and where we go ahead and decide to on level build 3-lane roads so we can transport ourselves across areas, and how we can protect areas that have greater biodiversity, how we can increase the biodiversity in those areas. And I don't feel totally qualified to do that, but I don't know that very many other people are either. So I'm trying to come up with rules like, well, if it can be a lake, we make a lake there. We use it for that. And it's odd because some of the easiest places for us to colonize as humans are actually ones we don't want to use. So I'm very interested in building buildings on slope and then connecting those up well. And then using these labor-intensive ways of micro terracing. So I've got spots where I don't want to put a big building, and it's not appropriate for a lake. And so we can go in and make little spots for people to be, whether it's a picnic spot, a camping spot, perhaps little huts and small buildings that are primarily built with natural materials. And so it's a civil engineering task, but when you think of most civil engineering, I don't think they're thinking at that level. It's mainly just flatten and kill everything and then build on it. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work out for me. It doesn't work out for wildlife. And it doesn't even result in cities that we want to live in. We just end up like ants crawling all over each other. I look at the design of most urban areas in the world, and I wouldn't want to live there. And I don't even think the people that live in them want to live there. I mean, people are leaving rural areas to go to city areas because there's more economic opportunity, because we're using an oil-fueled world to enable large cities to exist. Large cities, the way they exist now, are not sustainable. But they're very popular. And so it's confusing. It's very confusing. So I've been walking around with my GPS a lot and thinking about slope and water flow and the maximal use of land. And I guess I need other people to help me in thinking about all that. Although I think in many ways I'm at the forefront of thinking about it, because I have the luxury of building something that maybe isn't the economically easiest solution. As we developed cities, as we made little towns, in the best spot near a river and the maximum resources, we tend to ruin the best places, and we end up making the world into a desert. Places where there used to be fine civilizations are now places that are destroyed. That is the problem we're fighting with, is that we destroy things we're near. And so I got a lot to learn. I'm learning how to make contour maps and use contour maps better and think at different scales. For the Bosque itself, I'm making small parks that require a lot of digging and manual labor to create them in the correct way. The people who want to come to the Bosque mostly are unwilling to do that kind of work. They get tired really quickly. They have soft hands, just like I do. And so, but that's something that has to happen. It's interesting that we avoid physical labor sometimes. I mean, there's people who go to gymnasiums and stuff, and they use their labor there to make their bodies be fit. I would like us to make our bodies be fit, making a better world, and sculpting the land correctly. So I need a lot of shovels and wheelbarrows and pickaxes for that. So I want to think at the big world scale. Where should we even have cities? But I want to think at the smallest scale, which is what I have any control over at all. And I don't want to do that work myself. I guess I should do some. I mean, I could get my body in great shape and have great muscles and stuff. There's a lot of things to think about regarding that. Well, that's rambly, isn't it? Sorry.